On this week's episode of the Silicon Valley podcast, we bring back a past guest who I got to sit down with at the Africa Diaspora Network 2024 event that just happened in Silicon Valley. That guest is THELMA EKIYOR, who since being on our last podcast now has the title of Blanca Chairperson, Nigerian Office for Philanthropy and Impact Invested. She sits down with a group of her colleagues from Welma Bank, Access Bank, and the Sambo from Sambo Foundation. They're implementing solutions that are not only going to impact Nigeria, but the surrounding countries and possibly one day all of Africa and beyond. This interview is incredible. I know everyone's going to enjoy it. So let's start this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast. Enjoy.
All right, now I'm super excited for this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast. This is a very, very special episode. So, normally we're sitting down with some entrepreneurs, some venture capitalists from Silicon Valley, but actually we have people from around the world with us today. We're here at the African Diaspora Network. And well, before we start, Thelma, could you introduce everyone on the panel, or could everyone here give a quick introduction of yourselves, what you're working on, and what brings you to Silicon Valley this week?
Thanks so much, Sean, for doing this. It's always a pleasure to sit and talk to you and, get to raise awareness of the work we're doing all the way in Africa. But because Silicon Valley has a huge African diaspora, I think this particular interview is important for our work. My name is THELMA EKIYOR. I'm the chairperson of the Nigeria Office for Philanthropy and Impact Investing. It is domiciled in the Office of the Vice President, with the Secretariat on Job Creation and MSMEs in the Vice President's office, serving as our contact base. I'm here because at the African Diaspora Investor Symposium, we are launching a giving platform, philanthropic giving platform, so that Nigerians and friends of Nigeria can be part of the work that the Nigerian Philanthropic Office is doing. I'm here with members of my implementing committee, and they'll introduce themselves.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is HRH Victoria Simon Michael, and I'm actually here representing the Sambo Foundation. What we do is we actually support the unemployed in the Niger Delta area. We also work with women from the grassroots, but something predominantly that we do. I'm a chartered accountant and I'm passionate about figures. And we don't only look at giving out the funds to support people, we actually look at how we can train them in things like figures, about profit and loss, little things like that. So when we do that, they actually will bring 10 more persons of that like. So when we put in the funds, we actually see that they're sustainable. We also look out for people that are ill. We pay for hospital bills, give out scholarships. Something we did last year, we actually gave out some scholarship in Buckingham in London. So that's who we are in a nutshell. And I'm excited to be here because a lot of things have happened today, and I'll pass it on to the lady from Access Bank.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you, Thelma, as well, for inviting us and bringing us here all the way. So I'm Elizabeth Ugwegbu, representing Access Bank. I look after strategic projects and funding for the group, and I'm part of the implementing committee working with the MPO. So we predominantly curate projects with the MPO alongside the other partners to see how we can, take the project to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ayodele Olojede, and I'm the divisional head for retail and SMEs at Welma Bank. Welma Bank, it's a bank that is 78 years old and one of the first fully digital bank in Africa. Welma Bank is one of the members of the implementing committee, and today we're very, very excited to be launching the Philanthropy online giving platform that has been developed by Welma Bank, and we're really looking forward to being able to drive sustainable socioeconomic factors that will lead to job creation in Nigeria. Thank you.
It sounds like there's so many initiatives happening, and there's such a powerful group. Can you share a little bit about the background, the history of the Nigerian Office of Philanthropy and Impact Investment, NPO?
So Nigeria has a rich culture of traditional philanthropy. So every Nigerian community has informal philanthropy. But when it comes to structured, formal philanthropy, it's really grown over the last 10, 15 years, where starting with wealthy Nigerians, a number of them set up foundations. And, it's usually, the narrative is usually aid going to Africa. But having these foundations, come on board, there's been a new trend where local capital is generated to solve the problems, local problems. And I think that's a really healthy narrative. But we didn't have the conducive environment for philanthropy to thrive. Mostly what we had was these foundations being established, nonprofits working with them, and the ecosystem was, growing without the participation of government. The problem is you can't really have an ecosystem that doesn't have government. Government is very important for policy making. Government is very important to create a conducive environment. And so through the work that we were doing with Wema Bank in particular, we started having conversations with the presidency and with the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation and MSMEs. And the idea for the Philanthropy Office was broached. And lo and behold, the government thought it was an excellent concept. And through that, established this multi-sectoral implementing committee, which I have the honor to chair, with the mandate to raise and drive catalytic financing to MSMEs and startups. And in Silicon Valley, startups, the growth of startups, the history and the exciting, stories of startups are rich here. We want to create that type of ecosystem in Nigeria where if you have a good idea and it's bankable, you're not too far from capital. Right now, that's not the case in Nigeria. And so our mandate is to focus, first of all, on 4 sectors: fashion, furniture, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy. So that, in a nutshell, is the backstory behind the Nigerian Office for Philanthropy.
So a couple of things there, which I learned a lot earlier today about. Well, it's funny when it was mentioned, government get involved and some of the crowd's reaction. How is it being kept, the private and public relationship? How does that work exactly? And I am curious as well, why those 4 areas versus, med tech or these others?
I'll call Ayo to answer that question.
In the context of, Nigeria, there are a lot of segments, there are a lot of sectors. But what we found is that the ones that are accelerating job creation is mostly from these 4 sectors that have been chosen. Everywhere, every corner you turn to in the country, you would find that there's a furniture making factory, there's a garment making factory. In fact, because of the significance, coming here, we made sure that we came in the African attire that's been made by one of the entrepreneurs, from this sector that we've chosen. So it's a fast money spinning venture. And so the same thing with agribusiness and of course, renewable energy that is really transforming not just Nigeria now, but the African continent itself. So in driving this narrative, it became very important that we were very selective with those segments and sectors in the economy that would really accelerate job creation. Of course, there are a number of other sectors in the economy, but these ones are the ones that we know we can reflect quick wins, from this project. Thank you.
It's very interesting that those 4 sectors in Nigeria are the ones that you think can really excel and create the jobs in a short amount of time. Other than just money, is there other resources that are going to be put in to help achieve those goals?
So aside, obviously, what we're trying to do in terms of getting funding, you talk about funding, right? We are trying to see how much grants we can get. That's on one side. We're also trying to see how much debt in terms of loans we can also raise. But as you're aware, most of these startups, typically loans may not be the right option. So we will look for investors as well who would want to put in equity in the game. And then probably when the businesses become bankable, then they can actually sell off or then, give it to banks to fund. So that is an option as well.
If I can add to that, also, some of the technical assistance is critical. Some of the nonprofits in Nigeria specialize in providing technical assistance to MSMEs. And so as we build partnerships, we'll be looking at those. A lot of the Nigerian banks have now realized that you can't just lend to entrepreneurs. You actually have to create mechanisms to provide capacity building. I know that both Wema Bank and Access Bank are doing that. So to answer your question, aside from the financial support, there will be non-financial support that we give to these entrepreneurs as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. And the entrepreneurs, yes, okay, another question. Having capital is fantastic, but are there the companies now to deploy the capital too? What does the pipeline look like for startups, early stage companies, and there's 4 sectors? Are there companies already there that are waiting for this capital, or do they need to be created in 6 months, a year, 3 years from now?
Let me get your question right. You want to know whether the company is waiting.
Are they waiting there for the capital, or are they not there yet?
Oh, no. We actually do have a lot of people. For instance, in Sambo Foundation, the way we drive it, we actually look at need analysis. We have, for instance, women that would have need for tailoring clothing. That's a different arm entirely. We drive it through need analysis, and we have waiting list. So we have tons of people actually waiting to fit in.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it absolutely, when you think about something like the fashion industry, Nigeria's fashion industry is the largest in Africa. But it's still not even scratching the surface in terms of indigenous fashion. It's still every African knows about Nigerian fashion, where it's the most flamboyant, it's the most trendy, still not scratching the surface in terms of both export and, being sold at at tandem with the way fashion is sold in the West. I mean, Beyonce wears Nigerian fashion. And a lot of people don't know that she actually, so we need to make sure that those stories are not one-offs, but that there's a whole industry that supports what is a natural talent. And the reason why many of the fashion designers, and we call them tailors, a lot in local lingo, the reason why these tailors are not operating at the level that they should be is machinery. So part of the mandate of our office is to set up 12 shared facilities where you can have machinery in these facilities, and different types of entrepreneurs don't have to bear the cost of buying it themselves. They can go to these shared facilities and use the equipment. And that's how you transform an industry. At the moment, in reality, the continuum of poverty is really on the side of people who are trying to start businesses, right? So, and that's because they can't afford overheads, they can't afford equipment, they can't afford to hire the right staff. And so we're trying to deal with that problem face on through these shared office spaces.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think the question that you asked, it's at it's the cross of exactly why we're here. So there's a lineup of opportunities. There's a lineup of businesses that are just waiting to be able to receive financing. And the way that the banks are structured is such that the profile of the capital is not one that banks generally would want to put at the disposal of these small business owners for them to run their business. And that's the reason why we think that if we can get catalytic financing, it's going to really, transform the country and really drive this the job creation vision that MPO has. So I would say, for example, right now, we have a partnership with the Ministry of Women, and one of the a mandate from that partnership is to be able to create hubs across the 774 local governments in the country. And one of the focus that the minister has emphasized is the need for us to be able to have industrial machines to be able to teach vocational skills on tailoring. So there's a large number of entrepreneurs, especially in the women community, who are just waiting, to be engaged with this funding to help them to be able to, to drive prosperity, for their homes, for themselves, and, for the country at large.
Really interesting and fantastic, because it sounds like you're trying to eliminate every barrier for that company to start, with the machinery, the classes or the coaching, the expertise coming in. So at the very beginning, if all these barriers are removed and it's very easy to start the company, are there going to be resources down the line? Because having seed funding is one thing, but what about growth capital? What about money to expand? So it's not just in Nigeria, but we get Beyonce wearing more and more clothes from Nigeria and others on television. Is there, after those first steps, are there plans for the steps above?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay.
Of course.
I think it takes me back to the response I had given earlier. So, the startup phase, yes, then the business becomes bankable. It becomes investable. You then begin to see a lot of interested parties coming in to actually invest in those businesses. Now, you would also look at it from another perspective. If it becomes a bankable business, then, they put the pitch together, bring it into the bank, between Wema and Access or whichever bank, we then decide whether we can put in capital debt financing into that particular project. But we need to be mindful, whether the business, in terms of the cash flows, can actually accommodate the business. And we will then advise them. So that's a technical assistance as well, because many of these people don't know much in terms of finance, in terms of, if we're looking at the lower end of the spectrum, people from the grassroots, we need to advise them, because it's one thing to take financing from the bank, and it's another thing to default on the loan and the business goes bust. So it's our duty, our responsibility to let them know if those businesses are bankable, if the cash flows can manage the repayments, and if they can't, then we'll advise them on what next they need to do, whether they remain where they are or whether they have an ability to scale up. And if they have the ability to scale up, how do you scale up? Is it equity or is it debt? So we need to make that distinction and then advise them accordingly.
And so the office is called Philanthropy and Impact Investing intentionally. So the catalytic financing is available on both sides. But with the impact investors can go beyond catalytic financing to actually make investments that have financial returns, that take care of the environment, and also have social returns. That's what impact investing is. And that opens up a whole spectrum of opportunities for the entrepreneur. Because in that, you can, in the body of impact investing, you can get different sizes of investments, but also different configurations of investors. And that's where you know that an organization has gone past what we call the 18-month hump. Most businesses in Nigeria don't go past the 18-month hump, startups. Really? And so once you get them past that hump, they're on their way. Just like any other business, they will have all the challenges to face, but at least they've gone past what is the initial hindrance that businesses face. And that is our commitment as the office.
So at that early stage of those commitments, when you're going to be investing from this fund, partnering with impact investors, bringing in grants, all this coaching, are there going to be kind of covenants or requirements for how the capital is deployed, or is it going to be pretty hands-off?
Yeah, in terms of any funding done or any investment done, there definitely will be covenants, right? And those covenants, you need to, or rather the people who are investing in will need to ensure that they abide by those covenants. How restrictive those covenants is now dependent on how we intend, if it's a very small business, of course, the covenants will not be as strict as if we're looking to help out bigger businesses. So yes, definitely it has to be there. If you don't put those covenants, then it doesn't give the confidence to investors that we know what we're doing. So we need to ensure it's in line with international standards. And we also need to be mindful that we're not also hurting the local businesses. So yes, there will be confidence included.
With that, because it really sounds like you're going to act as the bridge between private, public entrepreneurs, both local and international.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. That's why we're here.
At all?
That's why we're here.
Sean, you got it. That's it. Our job is done. We wanted somebody to get it. We're the bridge.
You get some rest while you're here.
That's why I have seven members of my committee.
Do you see this model expand into other parts of Africa?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, personally, yes. And I'm going to say that Africa is 54 countries, not just one. And Nigeria happens to be the one that has the largest population. So yes, naturally, we will start with, so if it works in Nigeria, we can work anywhere. So forget that we're very hungry and aggressive people. And I think if it works very well in Nigeria with all the constraints and the ease of doing business and everything, I think it will easily, be implementable and scalable in other markets. Of course, we'll start off with West Africa and then try and see how we can, subject to the plan by the MPO. But I mean, speaking for access, we will go with where our footprints are because we have the customer base there already and it's easy to implement and then scale up. So yes.
And I think Elizabeth hit the nail on the head in terms of just even having a blueprint that other countries can look at. At the moment, that blueprint does not exist, right? So the narrative on Africa and investing in Africa, a typical investor is too risky and too much is unknown, right? So from the outward in. Now, if you have a partner like NPO that is helping mitigate that risk and making a lot known, it removes some of that perception problem. And I think that's where the blueprint is needed. So when people see, like we had some investors in Africa in that room, and they're able to say, we're doing it and it's working, it becomes very encouraging for another investor in Silicon Valley thinking, I would like to invest in Africa, but it's just too complicated. It now informs that person that, you know what, it's been done before. And now there's a bridge. I like that word you use. I'm going to use it. Now there's a bridge to look at least investigate the prospect of doing it. And Sean, you know what? If we're able to do that, we've succeeded.
Our listeners, a lot of our listeners are venture capitalists here in Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley. For the startup ecosystem, our audience is pretty incredible. What information or where should they start to learn about this? Because if I'm listening to this episode right now, I'm probably at home or at the gym thinking, this is exciting, but as Thelma just said, this sounds so out there that I have no idea even where to start. So where should a first-time listener, where should they start to do research? Where should they start to learn more? If you sat down with a Silicon Valley investor right now that's thinking, I have capital one day or currently that I'm interested in one day invest in this area, what information could you share with them to just open the door a little bit?
I think everyone can contribute to this because it's very important. First and foremost, let me start by saying Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria for a reason. Bill Gates is always in Nigeria. Every time I turn on the television, he's there for a reason, right? So seasoned investors understand that is the market to target. And so two types of people listening to this podcast I'd like to speak to. One I put them in the category of Africans in the diaspora, historical Africans who are American, so African Americans, and friends of Africa, like you, Sean.
Oh, thank you.
These people already have an interest. It's always easier to have that conversation. And what we're saying is, look beyond, don't be a lazy investor. Look beyond the obvious and see the opportunity. We acknowledge the risk, But we also say with that risk, there's significant opportunity. And that's what we're doing. And then you do have a natural partner in our office to say, I already met some people here who said to me, you know what, I'm taking a trip, I'm coming down. And I've said, we'll host you. And that is, even if they don't end up investing, I think that's a very healthy first step.
Okay, I actually would like to speak to the philanthropists watching. People passionate and want to see people move to the next stages of their lives. Sambo Foundation, where we've looked at women. We honestly do believe that if you help a woman, you actually help a nation. Women that are suffering, they've gone through all manner of things. I want you people to actually look at the platform that has been opened up today. And in England, we have a saying, every little helps. A platform that was opened today, you can put in as little as £2, $2, $1. It would go a long way. And just speaking to Dr. THELMA, and she reminded me that's the way Oxfam started, little bits. So there's a platform that's actually, and I'm going to pass it on, and there's a link.
We can put the link in the show notes.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, then, thank you.
Just make sure you share it with them.
And I think I'm speaking to the friends of the continent. Let me put it that way. And we have a lot of fans. I'm not going to speak on Nigeria specifically, but I think, as you rightly mentioned, out of every 5, it's probably one Nigerian out there. I think out of the 7 unicorns, 5 are from Nigeria. So that says a lot. And I'll mention a few. Flutterwaves, OP, we have Andela. We even met some of the investors here today. So they're very much interested in Nigeria. So that tells you that there's a lot of opportunity, despite the ease of doing business in that particular market. But your question was, where do they start? They should look at the key wins, right? Not the negatives. Of course, there will be negatives, but stick to the key wins and then understand that there are opportunities to do more. So from a philanthropy perspective, instead of just looking at just the likes of the unicorns, we need to also realize that there are opportunities to give back into the community. And that's the whole essence of this exercise.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this. You want to get information about this program, just visit that platform and you're going to be able to get all of the information that you require. You're going to get information about how much you can, donate to be able to support job creation. You're going to get information about the frequency of the donation. You're going to get information about, what certification, that would validate the fact that you have been able to make that donation. We want for you to have fun, even while doing that and putting it out there on social media to be able to inspire others who are thinking about it and they don't even know how to go about it. Today, I met quite a number of people in the audience that were asking that, we've been wanting to do so many of this and we just did not know how to go about that. There was a fantastic feedback and suggestion even from the room that a lot of Africans send money home. Thelma, when she started, she talked about the fact that Nigeria is one huge community of philanthropy, but what we've just done is to be able to provide a structure. Now, the diasporans are also asking for that structure. And she said to me that, that a lot of the time when we transfer money home, when they give us some form of rebate, $5, $10. I don't need the $5. I don't need it $10, but I can put it into this platform and to be able to support this project. And that is going to be very fulfilling. So those are things that we're also even looking at to really be able to, expand this project that we have started. And we're welcoming even more ideas to be able to help us make this truly, truly transformative. So I'm saying the very first place to go to is just this platform, and you can make your donation. If you want to give more, of course, there's also an avenue for us to be able to talk about it. The segment of focus are clearly highlighted on the platform: furniture, fashion, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy. These are elements that is supporting socioeconomic growth in a very sustainable way. And we're very excited, very, very excited that we are the bridge.
So I think in closing, just to say that if whatever type of investor you are, there's space for you with the Nigerian Office for Philanthropy and Impact Investing. If you are a pure philanthropist and you're only interested in giving out grants, there's room for you. If you're an impact investor and you would like to wait for the businesses to get to a certain point and make investments that give returns, there's room for you. If you're a financial institution, we do have two here there's room for you to partner with our financial institutions. So it just depends on the type of investor you are. And I think just getting the conversation started is the most important thing. So let me just end by thanking.
I have one more question for the group.
Because I was looking at 35 minutes.
Before we wrap up, what excites you about this program the next 6 to 12 months? And then if you'd like to give an email or a link or some way that if people have questions, they could reach out to you directly, now would be the time as well.
Okay, so I'll do the.
I actually love that question. What excites me about this project is that lives will be touched, lives will be transformed, families will be happier, people have what to look for, their hopes will be raised, people will live again, there's a lot of things would happen. I'm excited, a lot of things happen in the room today, and I saw the heart of people really wanting to give. I saw hearts of people excited. They saw things that they had been waiting for. So just imagine the lives that need to be touched, not just the ones that want to give. You see a lot of things that will change. In these times that we are in, people have a lot of what's that thing they have now?
Empathy.
Not just apathy. A lot of people are suffering from depression.
Yes.
After mental health, thank you. A lot of mental health issues. This will change. This will cause a great change.
No jobs.
Because of no jobs, they have no hope. But this will put hope again. This will change things around. So I'm excited. Thank you.
I mean, I have a story to tell, and maybe this will kind of hit the nail on the head. So there's a young tailor, as we rightly call them, who I've known for at least probably 15 years. She's been working for a particular, so they call them their masters, or I don't know what they call they're serving their boss, right? The apprenticeship, yeah. And I said to her, so she's acquired so much skills. She's been working for him. And I said to her recently, and I said, why are you not doing your own thing? And she said, well, every time I go to the bank to ask for money, they tell me they can give me only, in summary, $200. Right? And the interest rate is at 27-28%.
Really?
And she says to me, I don't know where to start from. And I said to her, don't worry, we're working on something. We're curating something. And it will not only help you, but it will help people like you in order to be able to scale up and also stand as the woman for herself rather than serving. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong in serving or being an apprentice, but there's a level or there's a limit, when one needs to come out from that shell and be able to stand on herself. So I think for me, this is the most exciting. And personally, I've been looking for a platform where I can give, right? I just don't want to give anybody on the street. I wanted to ensure that it's impacting lives. On a personal note, I will definitely give into this. And I'm sure there's so many people like me who have been looking for opportunities to give. So I'm very excited for this.
What is exciting for me is, number one, that we're doing something that is groundbreaking in the country. We are creating a structure for a problem that have been, that's just been there for a very long time. Almost like, yeah, we see it and you just walk past it. And we've been able to put together a team that is really going to change the narrative. And so individuals, wherever you are, any part of the world, you now have an opportunity to be part of a narrative to change story. It's a powerful. I can't even get over it. I've been so excited from the time that I landed here that this is something that we want to, we're going to talk about, that we're going to launch. You can donate for as little as $2 and you'll be part of those that are creating jobs. You don't have to be, you don't have to be the Bill Gates. You don't have to be the Dangotes of this world. But then we want to be able to leverage the power of small donations to be able to, I think there's this concept of the butterfly effect. And so just that little drip somewhere from a collective action is going to really make a change in the country. I'm beyond excited. I'm just so happy that I'm even part of this change story.
The excitement is tiring. No, I'm of course, Sean, I think that's such an important question. I think I keep talking about brand Nigeria. I'm obsessed with brand Nigeria because brand Nigeria, what you hear about the country out there really doesn't tell the full picture of how talented the people are, how innovative the people are. And I often say that the problem is we are not the best amplifiers of our story. And this is a good story. And this is a story that is about indigenous solutions. These solutions didn't come from outside. And we all, the excitement is because we actually all have an opportunity to take the gloves off and really be involved in creating something that can, in the long run be institutionalized and other people can come and see what we've done. Obviously, because we don't have any precedent, there's nobody we're looking at to say, okay, they did it this way. We're learning on the fly. So we learn, we adjust, we do things. But I have the greatest people to work with. The members of the committee are committed. The senior special advisor to the president, who is the secretariat for us, is very committed. I was just saying that we have good committee members and they're all committed. They put their resources in. And that is a story that we need to amplify. The fact that it's indigenous and Nigerian financial resources have established this. And I think because we've done it that way, we have credibility when we then want to reach out to international partners. And so, I was already thanking you, but thank you again, Shauna. And I think you have to come and visit Nigeria. I've invited you. So now you have to come, and you both have to come because there's a whole world out there that I think it would be good to have you part of.
Oh, it'd be amazing to organize a group from Silicon Valley to take a trip over there.
I'll take you. That's a good
So with that, I want to thank everyone here for being on this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast. And for our audience, when I'm not the host, I'm an investment banker focused on mergers, acquisitions, growth capital. Connect with me on LinkedIn and go to our website, thesiliconvalleypodcast.com, to look at our archives. And actually, you can see the original episode where I interviewed Thelma, which was the catalyst for all of this. And thank you so much. I got so much positive feedback from that episode of so many people going, I had no idea. Like that was the common response was, I had no idea there's VCs in Nigeria. I had no idea there's a startup ecosystem. So thank you for sharing with our audience. And with that, thanks everyone for your time on this week's episode of the Silicon Valley Podcast.